The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades, and this country is not alone.
Governments around the world are having to decide whether children can be at school.
The sheer number of children whose education was completely disrupted for months on end is nothing short of a global education emergency.
It should be a national priority to get our kids back into school and keep them in school.
We need to do everything we can to be safe, but there could be an epidemic of educational poverty.
Millions of students across the country log on from home, some with laptops provided by the district, and parents juggle this new world of learning, but it looks different in each family.
Question: how much does face-to-face teaching truly affect how well we actually learn? Well, after the whole university experience was transferred online, lectures, workshops, seminars all started to take place on video-based communication platforms like Zoom and Microsoft Teams. During the COVID-19 pandemic, especially when it was the most prevalent, debates all over the country started to discuss whether university was still worth the same value now that it was mostly happening online. With no real idea whether we're going to experience COVID-19 again or whether higher education institutes are going to adopt online learning, it was clear that video-based communication platforms had to be evaluated, especially when it came to education. Over the last couple of months, I've been looking at the real impact that video-based communication platforms has on the learning environment. I decided to focus in on two specific participant groups. Firstly, the students. Secondly, the faculty. These two groups are the two groups that interact the most in the education exchange, with the faculty teaching and the students taking it all in. As a student myself, I had no idea what the faculty may have been thinking or what they were experiencing. With these two participant groups, I wanted to focus this whole research project on understanding their perspectives so that they can be analysed and compared. I wanted to focus in on understanding not just the students' perspectives, but the faculty's perspective too. You see, at the time where video-based communication platforms were introduced into the learning environment, it genuinely seemed like students and faculty were going against each other. So there were three main areas that were focused on. Firstly, the effectiveness of video-based communication platforms. Secondly, the social implications of video-based communication platforms. And thirdly, the views on the financial value of higher education now that video-based communication platforms were being used. After going through deep interviews with the faculty at MMU, plus online questionnaires with the students, I started to recognize what was actually going on here. Surprisingly, it seems as though faculty and students were actually on the same team. There were struggles that were involved that the faculty were experiencing that they couldn't communicate at the time. So here's my findings. From the student perspectives, over 80% of students expressed that they didn't feel as though video-based communication platforms were effective. Having lectures and workshops online just led to them feeling like they lacked focus and lacked motivation. Not only that, but a lot of the changes to the curriculum that took place actually made university feel a whole lot more intense too. In comparison, 50% of faculty members actually agreed. One participant expresses that they couldn't see the whites of students' eyes, and there was no way to genuinely tell whether students were engaged. Although, another participant expressed that students' grades were the highest they've ever been. After diving deeper to trying to understand why, it turns out the reason why this participant has such different experiences is because they specifically curated a learning environment that firstly acknowledges the difficulties of video-based communication platforms, but then also the strengths, and merged the two together. There was an element of philosophy and passion that was needed in order to perfectly design this space where students felt like they could actually learn and achieve high grades. For the social implications, it was pretty much agreed that the faculty and students both felt like social relationships suffered. Again, there was one participant that stood out on the faculty side. Lastly, for the financial value, 84% of students expressed that their views on the financial value had changed. They no longer thought it was actually worth it. University is not just about the delivery of the course material, it's also about the access to resources and the face-to-face interactions. So should it still be £9,250? But this is where the debate gets interesting because the faculty members agreed that this was a fair argument. But from their perspectives, they believed that they delivered. Grades were still the same, course material was delivered. And an interesting point that us students didn't know, the workload actually tripled for a lot of faculty members. The extra meetings, planning and prep left some participants working from 8 AM to 11 PM in the evening. So I guess the question is it truly fair for the faculty members to take the blame when they were also just subject to circumstances too? 100% of faculty members expressed that they felt as though they had no agency at all when it came to the decisions of video-based communication platforms. They couldn't choose what software to use, they couldn't choose how to change the curriculum. Everything was just coming down from the upper heads. If you want to hear me further break down this question and dive deeper into the true realities of a lot of the faculty members, then click the link below to hear my podcast breakdown as I go further into the results that I found whilst going on this journey.